Washington Capitals remain in the thick of the race in the Metropolitan Division. Tyler Kuehl of Locked On Capitals joins us to talk about that team, that always interesting Washington Capitals.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Gil Martin here on the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. Thanks for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are, as always, free and available on all platforms. And right now, it's my pleasure to welcome into the show the host of Locked On Capitals, Tyler Kuehl. And Tyler, great to have you back.
Gil, thanks for having me back. It's good to see you again.
Always good to have you here and talk a little Caps. And, well, let's start with this. This team's been playing well again as of late, and they're getting healthier, which is always a plus.
Healthier in very differing ways. This team has been interesting, Gil, because there was a little bit of a COVID bug that came to the team during their California trip that put Lars Eller out. But then, unfortunately, there was this COVID bug that happened like a week and a half ago that put Nick Dowd, Trevor Van Riemsdyk, and Garnet Hathaway all out of the lineup. Van Riemsdyk was scheduled to come back this weekend, but he was still held out under some other health issues that he was having. And then at the same time, like, we were going in this weekend set against Pittsburgh and Buffalo thinking this is a huge weekend, possibly have a chance to have 2 wins the way Washington played against Pittsburgh. Well, then Tom Wilson goes down with an upper body injury, got to do with Marcus Pettersson. And then Martin Fehervary went down with an injury. He is able to play Saturday. So it's been getting healthy with like guys like TJ Oshie coming back, Gil. But the same token, the grind of the NHL season is starting to really come to fruition here as we head towards Christmas, and other guys falling out of the lineup. Obviously not as much with injury, but it's a little bit of a, come to and fro right now with this Caps team.
What is your take on the goaltending so far? At times it's been quite good, at times a little less so. Where are they at right now?
Well, Ilya Samsonov has really done an amazing job of getting back to that 1A position that many of us thought heading into the preseason that he was going to have, given that he had a little bit more experience than Vitek Vanacek. However, Vanacek took the 1A role, and for a little bit, I was going to say he'd be the number 1 goaltender with the Capitals, with Samsonov at number 2. I talked about that California trip. Samsonov pitches 2 shutouts, plays really well, and he all of a sudden gets himself back into the picture, and really since then has been the better of the 2 goaltenders. Now, Vanacek hasn't played poorly either. If the NHL does go to the Olympics, I don't think anyone's doubting their mind that Vanacek is going to go play for his country, the Czech Republic. Ilya Samsonov, though, I think has just been a little bit better. I mean, you hear 2.47 goals against average. You're not going, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But a .915 save percentage, 3 shutouts, which is top 10 in the NHL right now, and 11-2-1 start. For the longest time, once the Caps beat the Florida Panthers a couple weeks ago with Samsonov in net, that made him the only goaltender in the NHL with 10 or more starts that had an undefeated record in regulation. Samsonov has been sensational after the year he had last year. The goaltending is solid both with him and Vanacek. But if Samsonov can keep riding this high, I know he had a little bit of a hiccup again in the loss against the Penguins. I don't blame him for that loss. But I think if he keeps it up, the Caps have a really good tandem with Samsonov at the helm.
Now, as far as Vanacek goes, I mean, 5 overtime losses. Is that partially bad luck? Does he have trouble in overtime? What is with that record?
The first 4 overtime games, and it really started with that Tampa game, the second night of the season for the Caps. They just couldn't control the puck. They would lose the draw, and unfortunately, every team they would play would do that lovely neutral zone regroup, and then they bring it back in, they come back out again. And Caps would get the puck for 2 minutes, and boom, the puck's in the back of the net. And that was during a time when Vanacek was getting the hefty amount of the starts. So the Caps have finally found a way to win beyond regulation, have yet to win in overtime, but their last 2 wins have both come in the skills. Shootout, Gil, not skills competition. Sorry. It is technically a hockey point they get. But long story short, they're starting to figure it out. In overtime, I think they played well against the Buffalo Sabres. They had a couple of good chances, but they also gave up a couple as well. It got a little bit wide open, which is what 3-on-3 is supposed to be. But I would say a lot of bad luck. And, and I don't know how big of a lacrosse fan you are, but there, Gil, but if you watch field lacrosse, it's like winning the faceoff in lacrosse and just running down the field and holding on to the ball. That's literally what it can be in 3-on-3 overtime, and hold on to it for 2 minutes before you finally get a good shot. And that's what the Caps happened to happen early on during that rough stretch in the extra 5 minutes of hockey, is that they lost the draw and they just could never get it back.
Yeah. Talk to me about Tom Wilson. I mean, pretty impressive that he's almost on a point a game pace. And then he's also, I believe, second on the team with 78 hits right now. What's been different about his game that he's contributing so much offensively this year?
Well, as far as I know, he hasn't had any conversations with the NHL Department of Player Safety this season. That's been one. And I remember I was listening to an interview Brian McClellan did on the Jeff Merrick show a few weeks ago. And I remember he said the reason why what Tom really is focused on here, and he is on the 55 player list for Team Canada for the Olympics, the big long list, just in case, who's having to do all the testing and whatnot prior to the games this February. And Wilson found himself on that list, and he really took that to heart and says, I have a chance here. Now, if you've looked at a lot of the mock drafts or the mock picks on who's going to play for Team Canada, it's going to be a tough team to crack. I kind of talked about it on today's show of Locked On Capitals as well, of how hard it's going to be for Tom Wilson, and why hopefully this upper body day-to-day injury is truly day-to-day, because he doesn't want to miss any time at all. I mean, 24 points in 27 games. I don't think we've ever seen Tom Wilson have this kind of consistent offensive production as well. He hasn't hit the 10-goal mark yet, but boy, he's been coming close, and you hope he gets back. He's playing determined hockey, and I think that's why, that opening night against the Rangers, supposed to be the big brawl. It's supposed to be Wilson and Reeves and everyone going after Wilson, and Wilson kept it calm and clean. He wanted to play hockey, and that's what he's really focused on this year. He's not worried about going with the big hits. Doesn't feel like he feels like he can contribute more outside of the physical play. And it's the craziest thing. Why Gordie Howe was so feared early on in his career, because he would always spear, elbow, whatever do to get some room out there. Because when players started seeing him do that, they wouldn't want to go near number 9 for Detroit. They left him some room. And that's why Gordie Howe scored 802 goals in his career, because if they got near him, they'd get tomahawked. Right. Now, Tom Wilson's kind of the same, a little bit of a different way, but sort of that similar concept of, Tom Wilson can run me over if he even has the puck. I'll give him a little bit of room. And we're starting to see a little bit of that finesse play from Wilson that we didn't really see early on in his career, because he was just this big brute force that could skate fast. Now we've seen, especially with having 15 assists on the season, he can also be a playmaker as well as a goal-scoring finisher.
Talk to me a little bit about the power play. With all the talent you have, you've got Ovechkin, you've got so many other high-scoring players, yet not ranked near the top of the league in power play.
It's one of those things where there's so much pressure, and for those that are, for Toronto Maple Leafs fans out there, they probably remember it as well last year with Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, Nylander, the whole kit and caboodle up there. Their power play couldn't do squat, even in the North Division, and especially that playoff series against Montreal. When you have that much pressure on you to be dominant and have to have a power play that has to work, it kind of wears on you. Only 2 players on this team have more than 1 power play goal, and that is Ovechkin, of course, with 4. The other is Johnny Carlson with 3. And you can point the finger and say Nicholas Backstrom's not out there. He hasn't been much. So it's more or less just not maybe kind of finding the right looks. They've had trouble, even against some lesser teams, setting up on the power play. Every time I see it, I know everyone in the league does it, but every time I see that drop back pass, I want to punch myself. Like it's the most annoying thing ever. I'm sorry. Like I love studying analytics. I love, Hockey Reference is one of my favorite spots to go to trying to study players' progressions and whatnot. But boy, oh boy, whoever thought of the drop back pass was a good idea they need to go try it themselves on the ice, because it's the worst idea ever. And I think, it may come around. And once you get on a streak of getting a couple games where you go 2 for 3 on the power play, everyone will stop talking about their downfall. And I think it'll come around eventually with the weapons they have. And, if and when Backstrom comes back, that could probably help out as well.
No question. Tyler, won't you let our listeners know where they could find you on social media and where they could find the podcast?
Well, you can find Locked On Capitals, just like Locked On NHL, every day on free and available on all platforms, and also the Locked On Capitals YouTube channel. So if you're watching Gil and I right now, just go, when you're done watching this, you can go click over on Locked On Caps. You can follow me, the Insider of the Insiders, Tyler Kuehl, at TJKU29 on Twitter, Instagram, and Gil, I succumbed to the pressure of all the social medias. I got myself a TikTok.
Ooh.
But It's not all the dumb trendy dancy things. It's actually got some kind of merit. I did an interesting. It was raining and snowing at the same time here in West Michigan where I live, and it made me think about the 2011 Winter Classic. We're coming close to the 10-year, or we were past the 10-year anniversary, but almost the 11-year anniversary of it. And I'm like, let's talk about that game a little bit. So I did a little bit of a small dive into that game and what made that game so significant in the future of, dare I say, the NHL Department of Player Safety. Penguins fans probably remember why.
Unbelievable. Great to see that you're on TikTok. And Tyler,
it's
thanks so much.
Not great at
all. This episode is brought to you by your friends at BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered all season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football season continues the march to the playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. That's locked on, one word. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.
All right.